How was lunch?
Delicious. Coconut cream pie is really good.
That was the best part. Lindsay, Nathan's kind of last day in the office was today, so we went to the smithy.
We'll give a few minutes for Director After to get here.
Has anyone confirmed she's coming tonight?
I'll text her.
Awesome. Looks like Betsy's joined. Are we ready to jump into this meeting?
We have Betsy here.
I'm here.
Okay.
Team, are we ready? Good evening. I call this meeting to order at 6:15. Is that your time? 6:15 p.m. Present tonight are Directors Teitler, Director After, Director DeFreitas. Thank you to our interpreter. Astrid, would you please share the interpretation instructions with our participants, and then we can turn on the interpretation function. Perfect. Thank you so much. The first business in order is the approval of the agenda. Directors, are there any proposed changes to the agenda? Seeing as there are none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion passes. The next business in order is the approval of the consent agenda, which includes routine personnel and minutes from our previous board meeting. Directors, are there any items that you would like to pull off the consent agenda for a separate discussion and vote? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Do you have a second?
I second.
Can you please call to a vote?
Director Tyler,
Aye.
Director After,
Aye.
Director Ramirez,
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Thank you. The next business in order is action proposed 2024 budget. Do I have a motion to approve the proposed 24-25 budget?
I move that the board approve the proposed 24-25 budget as presented.
Do I have a second?
I second.
We will now have 2 minutes discussion for each board member and 5 minutes open discussion.
And we actually have a presentation from Chief Markham that integrates some of the board directors' questions. So I wonder if we want to start with that.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, let me share my screen here so everybody can see it. All right, can everybody see that? All right, perfect. So tonight is the final of 3 reads for the 24-25 school year budget for Roaring Fork School District. Format for tonight is very similar to what it's been like for the last couple of presentations to try and keep some consistency. We'll review some budget assumptions, go quickly over the general fund as well as some of the other funds. There is a very detailed write-up along with this presentation that was part of the board packet this past weekend. Funded pupil count for the district is 5,717 students. Of that, 530 attend charter schools authorized by the district, and another 5,187 go to district-run schools. The per pupil funding as determined by the School Finance Act is $12,172. And the total program funding from the School Finance Act is just shy of 70 million at 69.6 million. You can see our net assessed valuation is budgeted to go up. I think it's 1%, and the total estimated mill levy for the next year to operate the school district is 43.449. And you can see that mill will generate a total of $79 million from local property taxes. Okay, next slide here gives an overall view of the entire employees that we expect to have at the Roaring Fork School District. FTE stands for full-time equivalent. So you can see we have just shy of 830 employees budgeted for. This does not count athletic coaches or extracurricular volunteers or coaches. Those are also kind of semi-positions that we have throughout the year. You can see how those positions break down across fund and by different program area, with 63% of our positions being focused on direct instruction and another 9.5% on student support. Raises for all staff are budgeted at 6.25% plus the applicable benefits, and raises for the exec team are budgeted at 5.25% plus the applicable benefits. Real quick through general fund revenue. This has been pretty steady through all the presentations we've done so far in this cycle. A little bit more on general fund. Most revenue that comes into this fund is commingled together, and they provide for the general operations of the district. The exceptions are, and the reason they're exceptions, either it's dictated by accounting guidance or by CDE guidance. READ Act funding pays for specific K3 literacy interventions. Special education, both federal and state, pay for part of our special education programs. English Language Proficiency Act supports specific positions within the district. Related to English language learning, universal pre-K funding, it's tied to the number of pre-K students enrolled and supports that program specifically. And remember that those amounts are budgeted to be in Fund 19 this year and not part of the general fund, but you will still see them on a historical basis. And then Medicaid reimbursements, those flow into the general fund and are passed through to our designated purpose grant fund, and those support our elementary and middle school family liaisons. Again, just a quick summary of our total program funding as determined by the Colorado legislature. 5,717 funded pupils, which is our count. That's the work we do internally. Against the per pupil funding, $12,172. That's determined by the state. Gives us total programming funding of $69,579,000. 3 different funding mechanisms are used to pay for that $69.6 million. The first is local property taxes. So we will mill for that. The board will approve a mill levy, which is fixed. They'll do that in December, and it will go into effect February of 25, and that's expected to raise $47.1 million. Local specific ownership tax is estimated based on historical trends. It's basically car registrations is a large part of that. And then whatever those two don't raise, the state backfills, and it's called state equalization. And we expect that to be $20.6 million next year. Other local funding, the largest source for that is our mill levy overrides. The voters have been very generous in our district, approving a max out mill levy override. And next year we'll raise $18 million to support students and teachers in our district. That's $3,148 per pupil. We don't collect on a per pupil basis, but we like to show it to kind of give everybody a sense of size and what those amounts are. In addition to the MLOs, there's additional specific ownership taxes, interest on delinquent taxes, and interest on invested cash. State funding, this has remained pretty stable throughout our process as well. This is where you'll see a lot of specific program support, like I mentioned just earlier. So READ Act, transportation, we fill out a form every year, and the state reimburses a portion of our reimbursable miles. It's basically the miles and the money we spend getting students to and from school. So athletic trips, extracurricular trips, activity trips aren't a part of that reimbursement. So there's a process to go through and sort that out. Special education funding provides funds to support our SPED programs. We get 2 sources. One is here under state and one is from the federal government. In addition to that, the district supplements those amounts with general fund spending as well. And then ELPA, or English Language Proficiency Funds. Okay, federal funding. This is the smallest sliver when you break it down by source in our general fund revenue budget. It's 2% of total general fund revenue. It's $2 million even, and it's about $343 per pupil. The largest source is IDEA and special education support, as well as the Medicaid reimbursements. So now we'll quickly run through expenditures for the general fund. These might look a little different from before if you're comparing numbers, but the substance is the same. I went through, there was quite a few changes, particularly at the school level as schools are rounding out their staff and finalizing positions within the schools. So you can see we're contemplating a total expenditure budget of $83.3 million, which is an increase of $1.2 million. That's an increase despite moving our early childhood education program out of this fund for 24-25. So the 23-24 includes early childhood, 24-25 does not. Salaries and benefits are just shy of 84%, which is typical not just for our district, for school districts across the state. Our biggest investment is in our people, which is ultimately an investment in our students. The general fund will employ 673 people, and as I just mentioned, early childhood has been moved out. Here's a quick breakdown of by position. You can see the line share of certified teachers, and then the classified instruction would be things like paraprofessionals, particularly within our SPED program. So some strategic investments we're looking forward to in 24-25. This year, we went through a new strategic process to determine the plan for the next 5 years. That plan, along with earlier investments made through the UIP process and the process, or an outcome we call the Learning Acceleration Plan. Those are the three main items that guided our investments. So we're continuing to invest in the strategy that began for this year. We're adding an additional 8.3, or on top of the 8.3 FTE we added this year, it's another 6.5 on a permanent basis in 24-25. That's going to cost $670,000 in our budget. As Chief Park has mentioned multiple times, the LAP is much more than people. We did some high dosage tutoring. There's stuff around attendance, lots of other things to try and increase the performance in our schools. So here's a list of the strategic investments. One of our strategic pillars remains to retain and recruit staff. And so that's where we see a 6.25% raise come in. 6.25% will beat the estimated inflation as provided by the CDE, which is 5.25%. Beating inflation allows employees to get ahead. If you're matching inflation, you're basically allowing them to do the same thing year over year. We, of course, want employees to be able to get ahead, to save, to do different things as they progress in their careers through the Roaring Fork schools. And you can see the other investments listed there. A lot of these are one-time investments, communications audit, SPED program review, equity audit, data dashboard, and support. Those are all one-time investments for the current year. Those are being used, we reserve a portion of our mill levy override for investing in retaining and recruiting staff and for developing staff in our programs. Okay, we'll start to review the general fund by program area. So first is instruction, and this is exactly what it sounds like. It's our direct instruction to our students. So these are folks who are in front of students day in and day out. By far the lion's share of our general fund is spent here. 53 million total dollars at just over $9,717 per pupil on $50 million of spend. Again, that decrease is because early childhood education, the lion's share of those costs would have showed up in instruction, and they have now moved to Fund 19. Next up is pupil services. These are direct support services for students, so things like counselors, health aides, occupational therapy, nurses, and our deans of culture that we've invested in through our Learning Acceleration Plan. Those items show up here. Represents another 45, about 45 and a half employees and another $1,081 per pupil spent here. Next up is instructional support. So these are things that we spend money on to try and improve instructional practices here at the district. So you'll see things like instructional coaches, instructional facilitators, chief parks. A lot of her departments will roll up here. We're going to spend $816.50 per pupil. The professional services that you see here are primarily for the SPED program review and the assessments, data collection, and the data dashboard strategic initiative that we'll spend money on. The increase in instructional support and the dollars comes from, it was pointed out by the district DAC that, where's the coaching dollars? And previously we recorded those as instructional. And so going back through the state mandated chart of accounts, we aligned both with the DAC and with the state chart of accounts to show those as instructional support rather than direct instruction. General administration, these are the costs to run the central office, which is primarily the office of the superintendent, the Board of Education, and then our central office overhead. So you can see there are 2 administrators, which are superintendent, Chief Landon, and classified support is Rodrigo. Budget increasing slightly. We have seen an increase in professional services. Under professional services, you'll find things like legal, and legal costs have increased due to a myriad of factors over the last 3 or 4 years. Various legal findings. I think, with a newer staff, we've had a ton of turnover at the district office. I think there's just more requests for legal support. School administration, these will be your principals, APs, and the front office staff at every school. So employs almost 55 people, spends $1,188 per pupil. Increase in size was primarily coming from the 6.25% increase for employees that you see there. Business administration, this is the finance, payroll, and accounts payable department, along with accounting. We have got 6 employees in that department, total budget of $811,000 or $156 per pupil. Under operations and maintenance, this is what it costs to maintain all of our fields, all of our equipment, all of our buildings across our three different communities. They employ 53.33 people. In addition to, we are now contracting for custodial services. So you'll see that line item jump. The professional services go up from $325,000 to just over $1.1 million. We've converted 7 custodial positions. So I think typically you'd see 60 budgeted here, and we've got 53 budgeted. And the remainder of that's going to pay for those custodial services. We got a question last time on supplies. Seems like a high supplies cost. The chart of accounts mandates that that natural gas and electricity are considered supplies, and so those show up there, and that's what kind of inflates that number to that $2 million plus. Student transportation. This is where a lot of our students begin and end their day on buses to and from where they live. 31 people are contemplating to be hired here. You can see on an actual basis, we're going to have just under 23 people employed this year. So still really hard time hiring and keeping CDL certified bus drivers. Really all employees in the transportation department, particularly drivers, have been hard to find. We continue to be out there. Someone said that the transportation department was in, I think, the Strawberry Days Parade out there pushing their department and trying to recruit people to come join them. So that's wonderful to see them out doing that. One of the larger increases you'll see here is also for other services. And we have some McKinney-Vento homeless qualified students, as well as students in IEPs who are required by law to receive transportation to school. And so being short on bus drivers, we wind up contracting with local taxi services to provide those. And that's why you see that large jump of almost $170,000. So those are quite expensive. Those services are expensive, but we have worked that into this year's budget. And then other central support. So basically anything that wasn't covered before is going to fall under here. So it's items such as IT, communications, and human resources, employing just over 16 folks across those multiple different departments, about $503 per student. So this schedule shows the budgeted revenues, the budgeted expenses. You can see we're expected to overspend, and that's quite typical for our district. We carry over amounts year over year. You can see the amounts listed there, about $1.4 million for curricular materials and professional development. That's Chief Park's budget. That can be, large expenditures one year followed by years where it's quite quiet, and you'll build a balance and then spend it again. School budget allocations. I believe Director Ramirez pushed a couple years ago to see that number come down. Through COVID, it had built and it was in excess of $1 million a couple years ago. It's now $500,000. So schools are spending. We've been pushing and prodding them to get that money into classrooms and to hold fewer dollars aside. The Education Opportunity Fund came out of the 2021 MLO. We've set that aside. There's been some stops and starts, and I think we just completed our first round of, or this first semester is just wrapping up on grants we gave to employees to pursue further education. So at the end of the year, we're estimated to have $15.3 million of reserves. Of that, 2.9 is reserved by Tabor. There's a reserve policy on the books passed by this board that says we should hold 10% of our revenue in reserve. So that's another 10%. So 13% is kind of held to the side. There are mechanisms for the board to spend that $9.6 million set aside. There's just certain things within the policy that you would need to follow in order to do that. And then unencumbered reserves, these are basically dollars that we could spend or we could save depending on the direction the board wants to go. There's a ton of strategic needs. I mean, we could probably write a list a mile long, and we have $2.7 million to service that list. Everything from preparing for new roofs in our building. What if we ever go for a BEST grant, we'll need matching funds, providing additional housing for employees. There's a laundry list of things that money could be spent on. And again, that's, I think the work of the board finance committee being that go between every month, and then going back to the board at large and coming up with a strategy for those dollars in the future. So we'll look at the Early Childhood Fund real quick. This program has grown with the advent of universal pre-K, as well as absorbing growing years in Basalt. So we'll have just under 79 employees in that department for next year. Total revenues of $5 million. Of that, 1.25 is coming from the general fund. So that's basically the general fund's investment beyond the dollars we receive to support early childhood education. And you can see the expenditures laid out there. Again, the largest, we're investing in people, the people to be in front of those young children. That's by far the lion's share of that expenditure. So you can see the enrollment we're budgeting for next year in our pre-K program. We'll welcome infants for the first time, and we'll have 15 there. We'll have 50 in our toddler room, and then an additional 255 pre-K in our standard day rooms. Of those children listed, 98 are budgeted to or predicted to participate in our extended day programs. We offer a sliding scale tuition amount for staff, and that is going to provide $125,000 of our early childhood tuition assistance for the upcoming year. The Food Service Fund, this does exactly what it sounds like. It provides meals to our students, and with the advent of free meals for all, that service has gone up. So you'll see revenue and expenditures grow accordingly. There are rules around the beginning fund balance. We try and keep that low while also making sure that they're not scratching for dollars and having to cut corners when it comes to feeding our kids. There is a transfer from the general fund budgeted this year as a placeholder. This is something to monitor as the year progresses into whether or not you'll need that 200,000. If it becomes evident you don't, you can reallocate that on January's amended budget for other purposes this year. The net designated purpose grant fund, this is where we house a lot of our grants. So they're within this budget. There's basically a ton of budgets within this budget, right? So Title I has a budget, Title II has a budget, Title III has a budget. All the different school health professional grants we get, EARS grant, they all have budgets within here that basically roll up. Those grants are written for specific purposes. The money must be used for those purposes. And if you want to change, you have to get approval, typically through some sort of budget revision process. This fund employs an additional 36 people beyond what we pay for out of the other funds. And you can see we're estimating about $8.5 million of revenue and expense for the upcoming year. Familiar positions and departments are funded from here: pre-collegiate, family resource center, the ECA liaisons, our multi-tiered systems of support. So MTSS, that's supported with an EARS grant from the state. There's typically 40 or more unique grants every year that provide revenues or expenditures that exceed $6 million every year. That's continuing to grow. I know we just looked at $8.5 million, so $6 million is a little bit low here. And then again, the general fund is providing $1.2 million of support. I don't want to say that's misleading because we do pass through those Medicaid revenues, and that's a part of that $1.2 million. But our local service plan, which dictates how we spend Medicare revenues, says that we're going to spend it on liaison, so we pass it through here to meet that requirement. All right. Turn it back over for board discussion.
Thank you, Chief Markham. We are gonna now commence our 2 minutes for each board director. Director Tytler, would you like to go first? Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Markham, for the format of that is really easy and to understand and digest and see, and thank you for all the time putting it together. I have a couple questions. I know I asked this last time and I still don't remember. And so if somebody can just say again, that $1.25 million that we're budgeting for ECE, again, can somebody remind me, why is it that even though we're not having to pay rent, we're still outside of budget for that program?
I think part of it you're seeing is we accept and provide students for special education students. We also provide healthcare benefits, which a lot of providers, private providers don't. So I think, on almost 80 employees at $10,500 an employee, that adds up pretty quick. I think that's generally the reason you see that number.
Great, thank you. And then I still have a question about the student transportation other services of the $169,000 for the taxi service for the IEP and McKinney-Vento. If we had full staff of drivers, would that not be necessary?
It is likely that wouldn't be necessary. We could allocate drivers to picking up those students, yes.
But would the same amount of money be needed for the drivers then, instead of having to farm out to taxis?
It would be discussion with the transportation department indicate that would be cheaper to hire our own employees.
And can we say how many IEP students this includes and how many McKinney-Vento students this is?
I do not have those numbers available offhand.
Is there a possibility of getting that so we can just have an idea of what that is?
Yep.
Thank you. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tytler. Director DeFreitas?
Chief Markham, thank you for your thoroughness, and I don't have any further questions.
Thank you, Director After?
I don't have any questions either. I feel well prepared to pass this budget. with all the presentations we've had and the discussion too. Thanks for all your work on it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I did just want to make one clarification. A point of clarification, there was a mention about the 10% reserve per policy. I just wanted to clarify that it wasn't this board, but the board previously that had passed that 10% reserve per policy. I also did have a question in regards to our strategic investment, and I think this is maybe more for the team. I'm wondering how we're tracking the impact of student growth and achievement for our strategic investments. I believe there's two, the 2.0 FTE and the money for budgeted for the mental health professionals.
So
You mean the 2.0 FTE for newly arrived students? That is for the 24-25 school year. So they're hiring for that now.
Right. And my question was, how are we tracking the impact? How are we ensuring that that this is actually gonna be helpful to us? How are we tracking this investment?
I would say the investments are aligned to the strategic plan priorities, and then those are all monitored and measured by those priority measures and then the mission measures of the strategic plan. So those will be, you know, those annual strategic priority measures will be kind of our outcome to see if these investments are the right work to move student achievement and growth.
And
I think, sorry, go
so-
ahead.
would that apply for the school-based mental health professionals too, Anna?
Yeah, I mean, when you think of that priority number one, around like student leadership, we look at belonging data, which is tied to student mental health and well-being. So a lot of those pieces would be integrated.
And I would like to echo too, that part of that $200,000 became necessary because we did receive some cuts in grants. So rather than reducing service, we elected to maintain service because we know that mental health needs are about as great as they've ever been. And we didn't feel it was appropriate to, in the face of those cuts, to reduce those services.
Thank you. I also had a question in regards to the designated purpose fund. Can you please share, Nathan, where that the increase, I think it's, where is it? The change is 1.6. What that is attributed to?
Let's see here. It looks like the $1.6 million increase is tied primarily to an increase in state grants. Looks like the EARS grant is going up quite a bit. Colorado Department of Health Services, which I think supports our, and help me with the acronym, CCMP or CMP. I think that's where that money comes through, and then an increase in local funds as well.
And can you explain a little bit more, Chief Markham, of what that, because we take money from the general fund, correct, to put?
We take 1.27 million from the general fund. Yes, but a lot of it is, so if you look on page 18 of the budget in full, it breaks down by grant where the money is coming from. And so while we do supplement this fund with general funds, it's not, you know, it's $1.3 million of the entire $8.5 million budget. And that supports the general operations of the pre-collegiate program. So sorry, this is a general fund transfer. It supports pre-collegiate. It supports FRC operations. And then it's the Medicaid pass-through, which also supports the ECE, or sorry, not ECE, but the family liaisons at elementary and middle schools.
And what was the amount that came out of the general fund last year?
Well, this year the budget is for 1.147. The prior 2 years it was just over 800,000. So a lot of that increase is tied to, we've got an increase in Medicaid reimbursements. And so again, those are passed through dollar for dollar. So as Medicaid reimbursements go up, that amount that is transferred goes up. And then we have generally increased, if we see a per pupil increase of 8%, we increase the funds we pass through by 8%.
Thank you so much. Okay, we will now open it for a 5-minute open discussion. For directors, does anyone else have any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing as there are none, can we please call to a vote?
Director After,
Aye.
Director Ramirez. Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Tyler,
Aye.
Thank you. The budget has passed.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Hey, and if I can interrupt for a minute, this is Chief Markham's kind of last day and his last task on his to-do list until we have 1,000 questions and call him up and then during the next transition. But just want to appreciate Chief Markham and the work bringing this budget to this moment of approval during this time of transition. So thanks so much for that and for all your work. Chief Markham, over the last 5 years, we're going to miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
We echo as a board that sentiment. Thank you, Chief Markham.
Thank you all, and thank you all for you do. I know it's a big lift, and I look forward to what the board finance committee is going to do. I think it'll create a lot stronger communication and input on the front end of these budgets, which I know has been important and will remain important. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The next business in order is action on the Habitat for Humanity MOU. Do I have a motion to approve the Habitat for Humanity MOU?
I move that we approve the Habitat for Humanity MOU.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. We will now have 2-minute discussion for each board member and a 5-minute open discussion. I would like to give the opportunity to Chief Baumfalk to share a little bit more on this partnership and before we call to a vote.
All right. Thank you, Director Ramirez. So thanks for finding time for this. And Gail Schwartz, the Director of Habitat for Humanity Roaring Fork Valley, is here with us. Thanks for being here, Gail. We don't have a big presentation plan, but we're here to answer your questions. I'm glad that we were able to talk about this earlier and get everybody up to speed. But essentially what you're approving, what we're asking for your approval of tonight is it's actually just the resolution authorizing me to continue working with Gail and Habitat in coming weeks as they attempt to secure financing and close on the purchase of an 88-unit building in Glenwood Springs, and for us to make a contribution of up to $1 million for up to 10 units that would be priority for our staff. So, Habitat's business is getting our local workforce into housing that's affordable based on their income and is sustainable for them long term. So there are some details that we may not have every question yet. It's really a new concept, this priority purchase kind of thing, and it's new for Habitat to be buying an existing building and condominiumizing it and then converting it to ownership units in coming months. And so the resolution is really just authorizing me to continue that work and then move it forward because the timeline is pretty short.
Thank you, Chief Baumfalk. I am gonna open us up for discussion before we call for a vote. So I'm gonna go ahead and move us towards that. Director After.
Thanks for being here tonight, and thank you. I saw in the Post Independent that you had some success with one of the local municipalities this week, so congratulations on that. I don't have any questions. I'm excited about this opportunity.
Thank you. Director DeFreitas.
Again, echoing Director After's enthusiasm for this. I know that the timeline's been really short, and I appreciated the work that Chief Baumfalk has done in anticipation of opportunities like this to have us positioned to be able to move forward and to recognize a good opportunity when we see it. And I'm excited to see the larger strategic plan for housing, recognizing that the units we're purchasing in this particular location are definitely aimed at our newer small family, single individuals joining the district, and that we do need to continue to seek out ways to reach those who have larger families or who are above the 120% AMI that this is kind of maxing out at. We do have employees that, you know, continue to serve in this district and look and search for housing as well. So again, totally enthusiastic, 10 more units to help secure teachers. It's ownership. That's amazing. And I'm excited to be a part of this and to continue to be a district that leads the way, again, with the hard work of our staff and the foresight of the people that we have out there.
Thank you, Director Teitler.
I too will echo the sentiment that I think this is a great opportunity, and thank you, Habitat, for offering this possibility to our school district. And thank you, Chief Baumfalk, for all the work I know that's going to go into moving this forward. I do have a question about looking through the packet that we received, and it says all unit prices are based on what a buyer can afford at 33% of their income. And I'm curious about how that works with the 722 square foot, 1-bedroom units. And right now it's listed as a household size of 2. What if a person is less than the 120% AMI? Are they going to be able to get into this type of unit and still be within their 33%?
Go ahead, Gail.
Thank you. Thank you very much and for diving into the pro forma. Just as when we partnered on Basalt Vista with those 14 homes there, if you might recall, the same units had 3 different prices. So what happens is we back in to the price based upon the AMI. So if it's a 1-bedroom owned by an 80% AMI household, it will have one price, and then 100% and then 120%. So we're striving for 30% of the income going towards housing, the PITI, but we have also included, as we did at Basalt Vista, the HOA, and that takes us to the 33% because we know that some of the housing's costs are really, and we have a nice chart that are really passed along to the HOA, building insurance and maintenance and things of that nature that the homeowner isn't specifically responsible for. So as we back in so the allocation has not been made. We've been in the process of identifying based upon the current tenants. Our goal is to house as many of the existing tenants that are interested in the program, and we believe 53 could be eligible, and there's a distribution of those incomes throughout the 80, 100, and 120% AMI. So that is the Habitat model that we set families up for success based upon their income and their affordability, and we're working very hard on lining up mortgages. So we have great success at 80% AMI with 2.5% mortgages, 36-year-ish from IDF. I mean, wow, that's a wonderful opportunity for those families. And then there's some other opportunities up to 100%. And then the opportunities are a little skinnier between 100% and 120. But we're working like mad at down payment assistance opportunities and looking at developing a mortgage pool. I will just say First Bank's been an amazing partner in making this. So thank you for the trust and the ability to open the door to this really, I think it's a very innovative approach to stabilizing 88 small households that are in our community. Will be working from basically parachute to basalt.
That's great. And so from my understanding of your response, Gail, and thank you for the work that you're doing in this. So the sheet that we saw that showed like household size and 120% AMI for the 722 square foot, that was just as an example. Somebody who wanted that unit could get in at 80% AMI or 100% AMI or 120% AMI.
Correct, and it could be a one-person household or a two-person household.
Okay.
Based on the ranking. And there are certain income examples, you know, well, of course, we all use the HUD guidelines. And so that's so using the one or two person, unfortunately, a person with a child would not be eligible for, it'd have to be two adults because our policies and HUD and so forth and USDA really require an extra sleeping arrangement, living arrangements, you know, another bedroom for children. So it really is envisioned for, as you said, this new people in the community, give them a toehold. And I just want to explain that they're also building wealth. When you have the opportunity to pay less in your mortgage than your rent, and it will be stable over time, and you, for example, with the 80%, you have 100% mortgage with a 2.5% interest rate, and you're earning 3% a year on that mortgage. Just saying that this is a wealth building opportunity for these individuals. So hopefully there's mobility into the housing stock when their family grows or they make other choices or whatever.
Great. Well, that sounds amazing. Thank you for the work on this, and I don't have any further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again to Chief Bonfock and to Gail. Thank you for being here. I do have one follow-up question. I'm wondering if, and Gail, this would be maybe more for you, but is there a cap for the district in being able to buy some of these units?
No, at this time. So what we're seeing is there are 52 potentially eligible residents, and so we wanted to protect them and have them have the opportunity to buy should they choose. So that makes it 35 priorities. The $1 million grant from the city did not have any priorities associated with it. This contribution from the school district is for 10, and we don't have. We are in very serious conversations with several other entities that you all know that are quite interested. So we need to be able to, by the middle of the month, be in a pretty close to allocating those 35 priorities. So you have the first 10, that means there'll be 25 left.
Thank you. So in that spirit, I would like to make an amendment to this resolution. I believe strongly that this board and past boards have had multiple conversations in regards to housing for staff and the future for the district. And I think that capping at 10 really limits us instead of helps us, especially if past this meeting, or Chief Bonfock or Superintendent Cole hear back from the community, back from staff, that we might have more interest than we maybe thought. And so I would like to make an amendment that we change that third paragraph, whereas to designate a minimum of 10 apartments instead of up to. And then in that same space, I think we should also adjust the amount of money that we have allocated at this time to say RFSD, which is the fourth paragraph, the RFSD. And actually, Chief Bonfock, I'm not sure if we should even, I'm not sure how we would word that fourth paragraph in regards to how much money we would contribute for the units.
We could word it however you like, and I'd be happy to share my thoughts on that kind of spend and contingency and other potential, other things that might come up if you'd like that.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my preference. I'm happy to hear back from the rest of the board to see if they have any questions or comments. I think that this is a great opportunity for us and for our staff. And I know that there's many entities within this whole community and the whole Valley corridor that are going to want to jump on this. And I am grateful to Gail and Habitat for Humanity for prioritizing us. And I just want to make sure that should there be extra interest from the community, that we are able to utilize this opportunity. I guess I will open it up for discussion, since we've all had our 2 minutes. Board directors, I'll open it up for 5 minutes discussion.
So I guess my question to your amendment to the resolution, Jasmine, Director Ramirez, is can we leave this at 10 and do another MOU if there's an opportunity to purchase more and we decide subsequently that that's the right use of the contingency funds that are remaining?
Well, it's just a resolution, so we're not, this is what we're saying we're hoping Chief Baumfock is able to work towards. So if we leave 10, that's the commitment that we're designating Chief Baumfock to commit to. Which is why I would like to say a minimum of 10. Because if in the following weeks or months before school starts, we start hearing from families that they are interested, or teachers who are interested, at least we have 10 that would be set aside. And then potentially more should that be something we want to look into.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm just not sure, since we haven't had a discussion about what else is on the list of needs for the district, I guess I'm not totally sure if I'm comfortable going above 10 without further in-depth discussion.
I think us changing the wording to a minimum of 10 would be limiting us in a sense. I think I like the phrasing of up to, with whatever number it is that we land on, because that I feel gives Chief Baumfock some flexibility in what he decides as he looks into what kind of interest there is within our district, that we have that ability to decide what is the best number as we move forward.
And I do want to clarify that once there is a decision that Chief Baumfock would, I'm assuming, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Baumfock, but you would come back to the board to let us know what that final decision was.
Well, the challenge is that this is going to happen when you're sort of in summer recess. And so that's why we wanted to bring it to you today, to give me the authority to go forward and negotiate with Habitat and do a little bit of input from staff. And so, no, this is sort of, you're kind of handing the final decision to me if you pass this resolution tonight, because Habitat plans to close on this in the next 3 weeks. And you don't have another meeting. So I think I need parameters to work in. I mean, I can just give a little bit of background. The $1 million contribution came from kind of our comfort level with money that's already allocated to housing that's in our contingency for Meadowwood, and since it's very near completion. So I think if you were to go above that, we need to identify another source of funding, because I think we need to keep some contingency. I think we are going to get contingency back at the end of Meadowwood, but that's where there's going to be, we're doing a housing master plan starting in the fall, and I think we're going to have a much clearer direction on what kinds of things. And so I'm a little bit personally reluctant to contribute too much more to this effort, because I think that we want to keep our options open. I did a really minimal survey. I just sent an email to about 10 staff who were either on the 1-bedroom wait list, which, we have about 30 people on the 1-bedroom wait list. I just picked a few people who had reached out to me and really expressed their housing challenges and how frustrated they were being on the 1-bedroom wait list. And I reached out to the current 5 people who we have living in L3. Granted, people are on summer break. A lot of people don't even check their email for weeks at a time. But I only heard back from 2 people, and one said, I'd be interested, and one said, I work in Carbondale, and if I'm going to buy, I'd like to buy in Carbondale. So I didn't get the like burst of enthusiasm that maybe I had thought I might get. And that's not to say that if we put it out to all staff, we wouldn't get that. But that just tempered me a little bit to going into this as far as whether we were at the right number. But ultimately, it's a board decision. If you'd like to give me authority to go higher than that, I'm happy to take that forward.
Director Ramirez, I definitely support a lot of what you're saying, and like not to miss a good opportunity. I'm really torn though, because I do want to kind of take Chief Baumfock's direction on retaining some of the funds for other opportunities, again, especially aimed at those groups that may be over 120% AMI, but that's, like we all know very well, that doesn't set us up to be successful in housing bids in this valley right now. And so retaining some of that amount for those longer term staffs, I don't know. It's a really hard call because it's such a great opportunity and it's such an immediate one, but I think I would take staff direction on holding it at $1 million.
I also have a question that we had when we were originally presented with this great opportunity, and that was if we were given these options on, I don't know what to call it, the 10 apartments, or if we're looking to do as 15, you were going to look into, Chief Baumfock, whether or not those could be sold back to another group if we ended up getting them and we don't use them, and maybe you're able to answer that, Gail, like what happens if we did go more and decided that was more than we should have? How does that look in the future?
Oh, and thank you. Excellent question. So basically, our policy would be absolutely sell it to another employer, another entity, hopefully at the same price that you got it. That's not to make money on it, but when you look at the fact that these deed restrictions will be in place in perpetuity. So this is part of your housing stock, not next year, not your, but really for the life of the project and the district. And it's just a mechanism to invest in stabilizing your workforce, and also that because we're the rural resort region in statute, can go to 140% AMI. So that looking at a little higher income bracket, and it is contingent upon being able to find mortgages that will be favorable to those higher income households. So I don't feel that we would be any problem to move it a little higher, just as you were saying, but also the fact that you could resell it, and it will be preserving. We've had several conversations about what if we don't need it next year, and this pool concept that you have 35 commitments, but 53 units that are really in the marketplace. So you would have the opportunity, if you were to forego your priority 1 year, that you'd be able to pick it up the next year. So, or when the next unit came available, because we don't like to tie people's housing to their jobs, as we know that you'll probably hear about that from time to time from Basalt Vista. But regardless, I really am so grateful you're having this conversation and you're looking at the interest of the district's long term.
So as a follow-up to that, Gail, see if I'm understanding you correct. So if we were to buy 10 units or 10 shares, priorities, thank you. If we were to buy 10 priorities and we've found that we could only find 6 of our employees that wanted to buy at this point, we have 4 priorities in wait, basically. So if the next time a unit comes open, if we have another person who wants to buy, then we have that first crack at using that priority.
They would be prioritized in that sale, absolutely, because this is you're buying a priority in the homes, and so you framed it correctly.
Thank you.
We've learned a little bit about this priority. Of course, we learned from our partnership with you at Basalt Festival. We learned about the priorities at Wapiti and Rifle, where we have 3 employers come up and provide us certain amount of money for being able to put their employees in. So we were able to really work. And I do have an updated MOU. I don't know if you have the ability not to adopt that one specifically. It's just more grammatical rewording in the MOU that really protects your interests long term.
And I just might provide a quick point of clarification. So tonight, the board's not approving the MOU. You're just approving a resolution that authorizes me to then finalize the MOU. So I just provided a template that Gail had actually used with Habitat at Wapiti Commons and Rifle. So all those details will be filled in. And I think the other thing to keep in mind is that, yeah, what we're buying here essentially through our contribution, we're helping make the project happen, because without partners, they're short of funds. But B, we're buying priorities, but it doesn't mean that that's all that, it doesn't mean Roaring Fork School District staff would be excluded from also entering general applications and lotteries in that other 50 some units. And so just like we've seen a lot of our staff move out of our staff housing and into deed restricted affordable housing managed by the county or our municipalities in recent years, in other words, they can still apply and they could still get those others. This is just guaranteeing us at least the number that we contribute to.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I still feel very strongly that we should commit as a district to more. I feel like this is something I shared previously. I think that this is an opportunity, and just from the conversations all of us have with teachers and staff regarding housing, I see this as a great advantage and as a disadvantage to only have 10. Although, I'm not sure that, I guess only time will tell if families in our staff in our district really want to purchase. But I feel like this is really not just a teacher retention, and staff retention, but just an opportunity that I know that other organizations in the Valley are going to take advantage of. And I appreciate the work that has been done thus far to at least have a conversation about 10. And I am hearing from my colleagues that they are not comfortable with going more over 10. But I want to just reiterate that I believe strongly that this is going to be something that a lot of teachers are gonna, having housing, even just having a foot in the door at some point in time in this valley is gonna be important. And so I again appreciate the time and the opportunity to bring this forward to this board.
So I will mention something. I'm sorry, Director. I will mention that should you authorize this an additional investment for priorities, that, and we're able to just close the property, that we could consider it, and let's say you want another 5 units, consider it that securing that opportunity. But let's say it is not something that appears as if you want to take advantage of it. Consider it a loan to the project that you could be basically refunded when all the units are sold, if you were not interested in taking advantage of the full 15 units, just using round numbers. Does that make sense? If you need time to sort this, and again, it's really a function of, I think Ben and I have worked together for such a long time, trust that we are going to move forward in the best interests of the district. So if there was a commitment to more, the interest wasn't there on the part of your employees, it could be a loan, and that those funds could be returned to you if you chose to use fewer units. Does that make sense?
Any other director comments?
I think I just, again, want to suggest that we commit to the million enthusiastically, but retain the amount in our reserve fund as discussed to continue to seek out other housing solutions. There's quite a smorgasbord of solutions available, and we're trying out a lot of things. And I don't want to limit the more thorough work that I know is going to go into that strategy going forward. So I would say committing enthusiastically to $1 million tonight.
Anyone else? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and call for a vote.
Director Ramirez,
And sorry, just to be clear, we're voting on the resolution as is or
There
without
was-
amendment? Okay.
There wasn't a second on the motion to amend. So we're gonna go ahead and call to a vote for the resolution.
Okay.
Aye.
Director DeFreitas,
Aye.
Director Tyler,
Aye.
Director After,
Aye.
Thank you so much again to Chief Bonfock and Gail for your time and commitment to housing in our valley. We appreciate all the time and energy spent on this. And thank you to Chief Bonfock for all the time spent on housing for our staff.
All right. Thank you for your support of this.
Thank you. Thank you for the.
Thank
you. Thank you.
There's no further business and there's no objection. The meeting will be adjourned. It is 9:23 p.m. Oh, sorry, I'm ahead of you guys. It is 7:23 p.m. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good summer.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.